In this video, I'm going to explain exactly what tachograph management involves, why it's so important, the common mistakes we regularly see, and what you should be doing as a transport operator to demonstrate compliance. I'm Rowan Vernon, Managing Director of Nationwide Transport and Training Group, and every month we analyse over 200 operators' tachograph data, reviewing data for over 1,000 drivers and vehicles. If you operate HGVs, managing tachographs isn't simply about downloading driver cards every few weeks and hoping everything looks okay. In fact, one of the biggest misconceptions in our industry is that downloading the data means you've fulfilled your obligations. Unfortunately, that's simply not the case. The Traffic Commissioner expects every operator to have effective systems in place to actively monitor, review and manage tachograph compliance as part of their operator licence undertakings. Failure to do so can lead to DVSA investigations, public inquiries, regulatory action against your operator's licence, curtailment of your licence, suspension, revocation, and in some cases, prosecution. The good news is that managing tachographs properly doesn't need to be complicated. With the right systems and the right processes, it's something that can become part of your routine monthly compliance management. One of the biggest misconceptions that we come across is that tachograph compliance is solely the driver's responsibility. Whilst drivers absolutely have legal responsibilities for complying with the driver's hours rules and using their tachographs correctly, operators have an equally important legal responsibility. The law places a duty on operators to organise work in such a way that drivers are able to comply with the regulations. That means you shouldn't simply react when something goes wrong. You should have systems in place that help prevent problems from occurring in the first place. The Traffic Commissioner expects operators to monitor drivers' hours, review infringements, investigate why they occurred, speak with drivers where necessary, provide further training where appropriate, and maintain evidence that all of these actions have taken place. Simply downloading the data is not compliance. It's what you do with the data that matters. Think of it this way. Downloading tachograph information is like taking a patient's blood pressure. It's only useful if someone actually reviews the results, identifies any concerns, and takes appropriate action. Exactly the same principle applies to tachograph management. Every transport operator should have a documented process for managing tachograph compliance. That process should include downloading drivers' cards and vehicle unit data within the required timescales, analysing that information using recognised software, reviewing infringements, identifying trends, carrying out documented driver debriefs, providing refresher training where required, and retaining all records. If DVSA examiner visits your operating centre tomorrow and asks, "Can you show me how you manage your driver's hours compliance?" you should be able to demonstrate that process from start to finish, not just produce software reports. You should be able to show evidence that those reports have been reviewed, acted upon, and followed up. So what exactly should you be looking for? Most operators naturally focus on driver's hours infringements, things like exceeding daily driving limits, insufficient breaks, or reduced rest periods. Whilst these are obviously important, effective tachograph management goes much further than that. You should also be monitoring working time directive compliance, missing mileage, that's vehicle movements without a driver card, manual entries, unknown driving events, calibration expiry dates, card download intervals, vehicle download intervals, and repeated patterns of behaviour. Sometimes an individual infringement isn't the biggest concern, it's the pattern behind it. For example, one driver exceeding their driving time by a few minutes on a single occasion may not indicate a wider problem. However, if that same driver is repeatedly committing similar infringements every month, that tells you something different. Likewise, if multiple drivers operating from the same depot are all committing similar offences, you should be asking yourself whether there is an issue with scheduling, route planning, unrealistic delivery expectations, or inadequate management oversight. Because these are exactly the sorts of questions the DVSA and the Traffic Commissioner will ask. The purpose of tachograph management isn't simply to identify infringements. It's to identify why they're happening and prevent them from happening again. One of the most valuable tools available to operators is the driver debrief. Unfortunately, it's also one of the areas most commonly overlooked. Many operators download the reports, glance over them, perhaps even email them to the driver, and consider the job done. But that is not good enough. Drivers should be spoken to. The infringements should be explained. The reasons behind them should be discussed. And where necessary, additional guidance or refresher training should be provided. Most importantly, those discussions should be recorded. A signed driver debrief provides valuable evidence that you've identified the issue and taken reasonable steps to address it. If the same driver continues to commit similar infringements, you can demonstrate that you've progressively managed the situation rather than ignore it. Another mistake that we regularly encounter is operators who only review reports when something has already gone wrong. Perhaps there's been a roadside stop, maybe the business has received a warning letter, or perhaps the operator has been called to public inquiry. By that stage, it's often too late to prevent the problem. Good compliance is proactive, not reactive. The operators who consistently achieve good compliance standards aren't necessarily the ones with perfect drivers. They're the ones who have robust systems that identify issues early and deal with them before they escalate. Another important point to remember is that tachograph management doesn't exist in isolation. It forms part of your wider operator license compliance system. When we carry out compliance audits, we don't simply look at tachograph reports. We compare them against vehicle defect reports, maintenance records, safety inspection schedules, driver license checks, working time directive records, and transport manager oversight. Everything should work together to demonstrate that your operation is being effectively managed. Consistency is what the regulators are looking for. So, how often should your tachograph compliance be reviewed? Driver cards and vehicle units should be downloaded in accordance with the legal requirements and your own company procedures. However, reviewing the data should become part of your regular monthly compliance management. Every month, you should be reviewing reports, identifying trends, carrying out driver debriefs, documenting any actions taken, and checking whether previous issues have been improved. By doing this consistently, you're creating a clear audit trail that demonstrates active management. That evidence can be invaluable if you're ever subject to a DVSA investigation or required to appear before the Traffic Commissioner. Remember, the Traffic Commissioner doesn't expect every operator to have perfect drivers. Drivers are human and mistakes happen. What the regulator does expect is that operators identify those mistakes, investigate them, take appropriate action, and continually work towards improving compliance. That's what good transport management looks like. If you're not currently reviewing tachograph reports every month, carrying out documented driver debriefs, monitoring trends, and maintaining written records, now is an excellent opportunity to review your current systems. Even small improvements can significantly strengthen your compliance position. At Nationwide Transport and Training Group, we support transport operators across the UK and Ireland with monthly tachograph analysis, remote downloading solutions, driver debriefing, working time directive monitoring, transport manager support, independent compliance audits, and complete compliance management solutions. Our aim is simple: to help operators remain compliant, protect their operator's license, give them confidence that their systems would stand up to scrutiny from both the DVSA and the Traffic Commissioner. If you would like to find out more about any of our tachograph compliance services, or if you'd simply like an informal conversation about your current systems, we'd be delighted to help. If you have found this video useful, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the future videos covering operator licensing, transport compliance, public inquiries, transport management, and everything else you need to know to run a safe, compliant transport operation. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.